Welcome to the analysis of my C++ game as well as my C# game. My C++ game is a 2D platformer game where the player controls a knight who is navigating their way through 2 levels, avoiding obstacles as well as enemies. The game starts with a main menu which allows the user to either quit or continue playing their game. The main controls are WASD keys. This allows the player to go up, down, left and right. Additionally with this, the spacebar allows a player to perform a jump attack. The player is also allowed to perform a long jump attack if they hold down the spacebar for 2 seconds. The enemy sprites will have the ability to move freely within the range which they have been allocated, and the player will die if they come into contact with the enemies. Additionally, the player will also die if they fall on any of the steel rods. But if the player does die, they will respawn at the beginning of the level. As much as this can be frustrating, if a player does want to take a break, they can click P on their keyboard, which will pause a game. After the player has completed both levels, they will be met with a completion screen, and then they can try it all again and try and speedrun it to get the best time possible. Now onto my C# Unity project. My C# Unity project is a 3D racing game where the objective is for the player to race around a track and hopefully win. The player will be playing against AIs, not other players in this game. They will be going crazy trying to destroy the other cars as well as yourself. The key theme in this game is mayhem. The original concept for this game was heavily based upon a game called Snake.io. In this game, you have to survive for as long as you can while also trying to get as big as you can by driving into other players and collecting their loot. The way I was going to recreate this was by having the player drive into other cars, causing them to crash, and the player absorbing them. Unfortunately, down to time management, I wasn't able to replicate this, but I did spend a lot of time focusing on the crashing mechanic as well as the maneuverability and the physics of the cars to make it as realistic and as fun as possible for the player. This time was also spent focusing heavily on the 2 modes which I produced. The race mode, where you're playing against other AIs, and the time attack, where you're trying to get the best time possible on the course. The player is able to change their camera angle to get different perspectives of the car. Additionally, with this, there is a little mini-map in the bottom right of the screen. This shows you how close the other cars are to you. It also tracks your progress along the course. Both my C++ game as well as my C# Unity project are a long way off from being finished articles. There is massive room for improvement on both. From the feedback which I've gathered so far, lots of the players felt like the crashing mechanics as well as how the car handles felt really smooth. But some areas which I'd like to improve on is in the timed laps. If you try and doing it again, unfortunately, it does not calculate your new time. This is something which I can reflect on at a later date and improve upon in the next version of the game. Maybe in the next version of the game, I will be able to try and implement the original concept of driving into the cars and becoming bigger and bigger. Or alternatively, I could have it that you collect points and eventually this adds up to a speed boost. I did try and make it that it can be played on mobile phones, but this is also something which I can try in the next version of the game. The UI currently has the buttons in, but they don't properly work just yet. I have been able to gather all this feedback from uploading the Unity project onto itch.io to get people playing it. If you'd like to play it, give it a download, and I'd love to get some feedback from it. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy playing both games.